Imagine waking up as Leah Blum, 19 years old. Freezing air cuts through rotten floorboards at 5:15 on a bitter Tuesday morning, November 13, 1900, on Hester Street in Manhattan's Lower East Side. No alarm clock rings to wake you, and no warm radiator heats the bedroom. Instead, the sharp bite of frost and the choking smell of coal oil smoke jolt you upright with a burning throat. Beside your body on a worn horsehair mattress, a younger sister and two cousins begin to stir. 11 people live crammed together inside this three-room flat, each fighting for the same stale gallon of indoor air. Barely 45 minutes remain to dress, swallow a crust of hard bread softened in chicory water, and climb 4 flights of creaking stairs. Arriving even moments past 6 o'clock means the heavy iron latch drops, the foreman cuts 25 cents from your pay, and you freeze on the landing. Survival here is counted in pennies and bought with total exhaustion. The family still owes $42 to the agent who arranged ship passage from Hamburg aboard the steamship Rotterdam. Clearing that debt requires 280 full days of 16-hour shifts. Each passing minute of your life follows one harsh rule: 5 cents an hour, and the heavy iron door stays locked. Down in the dark airshaft outside the bedroom window, factory whistles remain silent, yet the brick canyon hums like an overcrowded hive. Hollow coughs from 5 different men echo off wet masonry, carrying the rattle of sickness tearing through damaged lungs. Out on the muddy cobblestones below, pushcart peddlers light smoky torches while shouting in Yiddish, Italian, and German. There is no time to linger, no chance to wash up properly, and not a single drop of hot running water in the building. Tightening your wool apron, you pull a knit shawl over cold ears and step into the drafty hallway. Before this day ends at midnight, you will see firsthand why a whole generation of immigrant women worked themselves into early graves inside New York sweatshops. To understand your day, you must look closely at the building built to squeeze profit from poor families. You live inside a classic dumbbell tenement at 142 Hester Street, a brick structure designed to fit as many bodies as possible onto a narrow Manhattan lot. Just 320 square feet make up this 3-room home. That is smaller than a standard 2-car garage today, yet 11 people eat, sleep, and breathe inside it. Only the front room features windows opening toward the public street. Both interior spaces open directly onto a narrow airshaft measuring barely 28 inches across. Builders claimed this small shaft would bring fresh air and light into inner rooms. Instead, it became a dark trash chute and a trap for stagnant stink. Families above toss down dirty wash water, rotting peelings, and waste buckets. The sickening smell drifts back into your room, settling into wool blankets like grease. Cheap whitewash coats the crumbling walls, constantly flaking into fine chalky dust. In winter, moisture builds against cold outer brick, dripping down plaster in greasy brown lines. Cold winds blowing off the East River sweep through thin walls without any furnace to stop them. The only heat comes from a tiny stove burning 5 cents worth of coal every 2 days. Sleeping 4 across a mattress with boots on is the only way to avoid freezing. Everyone lies turned on their sides like spoons, shifting together in silence whenever someone turns. Privacy remains completely unknown in a place like this. Modesty is a luxury reserved for wealthy families uptown, while life here is stripped down to basic daily survival. Every breath before dawn tastes of soot, mold, and rotting trash. Even so, before neighborhood clocks strike 6, you must leave for a far more dangerous room. Before heading up to work, you must walk down to the rear yard to use the privy. In the dim dawn, the steep steps are slick with spilled slops and dirty water. 4 wooden toilet stalls stand in the muddy yard, serving all 96 residents living in the building. No modern plumbing, flushing water, or direct sewer connections exist here. Under the floor rests an open brick pit that sanitation collectors have not emptied in 6 months. Foul sludge sits 2 feet below the wooden bench, releasing fumes that sting your eyes as you step inside. Summer turns this yard into a breeding ground for deadly fevers and cholera. In freezing November, waste freezes into hard mounds while dirty seepage leaks through broken mortar into the soil. Holding a woolen shawl over your mouth, you quickly wipe numb fingers on your apron and hurry back toward the indoor stairs. Yet an even greater danger waits inside the warm workshop on the 4th floor. Doctors call it the white plague or consumption, known today as tuberculosis, a deadly sickness of the lungs. In 1900, 1 in 3 clothing workers in the Lower East Side caught this illness before age 25. The contagion spreads rapidly in dark rooms where fabric dust fills the air. Climbing the stairs, you smell the dry trade odor: burned wool, sour sweat, and shredded cloth fibers known as shoddy. Originally, shoddy meant low-grade wool created from shredded rags torn apart by heavy factory machinery. Because these recycled threads were fragile, finished fabric tore easily, turning the word into slang for deceptive, worthless goods. Workers in this tiny room breathed these floating bits of shoddy fabric for 16 hours straight without relief. Microscopic cloth threads pass through the nose, settle deep in the chest, and irritate delicate airways until healthy lungs turn stiff and scarred. Pushing through the 4th floor entrance, you step inside at exactly 2 minutes before 6. The shop boss, an anxious middleman named Morris, sits by the door checking a pocket watch with brass key in hand. When the grandfather clock strikes 6, Morris turns the key inside the deadbolt with a loud metallic snap. He slips the shiny brass deep into his vest pocket. Locked from the outside, the door will not open again until 10 o'clock at night. This harsh contract arrangement was known across New York as the sweating system. Large clothing companies on Broadway auctioned off sewing jobs to small middlemen like Morris, shielding themselves from blame while forcing bosses to squeeze every drop of labor from poor workers. Because contractors made money by sweating maximum profit from human bodies, people began calling these crowded rooms sweatshops. Inside the workspace, the room measures only 14 by 18 feet across. Crammed into this tight space are 22 tired workers, 14 sewing machines, 2 coal-heated pressing tables, and tall stacks of uncut cloth. Overhead, 4 bare gas lamps hiss steadily near the ceiling, casting dim yellow light across long work tables. Those 4 small flames burn as much fresh oxygen each hour as 16 adults, filling the unventilated room with invisible fumes and soot. Your workstation is a heavy Singer sewing machine bolted securely to a pine bench. For the next 16 hours, legs will push the foot pedal up and down, driving a sharp needle through fabric at 2,000 stitches every minute. Pay rates in this shop are designed to keep workers deeply in debt. Morris pays you 5 cents an hour, which adds up to 80 cents for 16 hours of hard labor. However, the owner deducts money from earnings for almost every small workplace expense. He charges a dime for a broken needle, 5 cents for a spool of thread, and 20 cents each week just to sit under the gas lamp. Should a single drop of sweat stain the delicate white silk of a woman's shirt, Morris docks 50 cents from your pay, erasing 10 full hours of hard work in one moment. At the bakery down the block, a plain loaf of rye bread costs 4 cents. To earn enough food for just one day, you must pedal your heavy sewing machine for 48 minutes without making a single mistake. 5 cents an hour, and the heavy door stays locked. By 2 in the afternoon, 8 long hours into the shift, the workshop feels like an overheated oven. Glowing coal stoves used to heat heavy pressing irons push the indoor temperature above 90 degrees. Thick haze from cotton dust and lamp soot floats in the air, glowing dull orange beneath the hissing gas jets. Swallowing becomes painful as dry bits of floating thread coat the back of your throat. Sharp aches shoot through your lower back from leaning forward over the machine table. Your right leg muscles throb with pain from pumping the iron pedal without a break since early morning. Sitting across the table, 16-year-old Fania sways gently on her wooden stool, struggling to keep heavy eyelids open. In a room filled with fast machinery, sudden tiredness leads directly to severe injury. Without warning, a painful accident strikes your work table. Sudden muscle cramps lock your right calf, causing the foot to jerk the cast iron treadle forward. Your left hand, guiding smooth white fabric beneath the presser foot, slips 2 inches out of place. The thick steel needle drives downward with tremendous force, hitting the strike plate beneath it. With a loud snap, the point shatters into sharp metal fragments. A flying piece of broken steel shoots upward like a tiny bullet, missing your left eye by less than an inch. The sharp metal cuts deeply across your cheekbone, opening a bleeding wound before sticking into the wooden tabletop behind you. Warm blood immediately runs down your face, heading straight toward the expensive white blouse under your hands. You have only 2 seconds to react. Instead of touching your injured cheek, you quickly pull a wool apron over the cloth to keep it clean. You know that damaging the silk will cost you an entire day of wages. Morris rushes across the room in a fury, slamming his fist onto the table right beside your fingers. His wide eyes look only at the expensive white shirtwaist. Shouting loudly in Yiddish, he threatens to throw you into the street if even 1 drop of blood touches the material. Hands trembling with shock, you press a scrap rag against your face while handing him 10 cents to pay for the broken needle. Think about the harsh realities of this workshop. The thick dust filling your lungs, the 10-cent needle fines, or the locked exit doors. Which of these conditions would be the hardest for you to endure? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Wiping the blood from your chin, you thread a replacement needle and place your sore foot back on the cast iron pedal. 5 cents an hour, and the door remains locked. Wealth during the Gilded Age was built directly on top of this hidden suffering. Just 20 blocks north of your Hester Street workshop, along 5th Avenue, wealthy New Yorkers shopped inside grand department stores with marble floors. Inside those bright retail shops, a stylish white blouse with fine lace trim sold for $3.50. That single shirt represented 70 hours of non-stop immigrant labor, equal to nearly a full week of your life. Shoppers buying those elegant clothes rarely realized their garments came from dark tenement bedrooms, where sick children slept on stacks of finished fabric. Big clothing companies avoided responsibility by claiming they only bought finished clothes from independent contractors. Meanwhile, city health inspectors lacked the legal power to enter private tenement homes without special court orders. Most city doctors during this era still believed diseases came from bad night air rather than spreading bacteria. Because of this outdated belief, public officials failed to clean up the crowded workshops that spread deadly lung sickness. Photographs and historical records eventually revealed the shocking truth to the public. When news reporter Jacob Riz published his famous book, How the Other Half Lives, his flash photography exposed the dark world of tenement shops to the entire country. Riz showed how greedy contractors turned cramped family rooms into busy mini-factories, forcing children and parents to sew together among piles of cloth scraps. Historians note that the word ragtag originally described the poorest people in the cloth business, who collected worthless fabric scraps from street gutters to sell to tenement sweatshops for stuffing. Official government investigations and doctor reports later showed that more than 80% of Lower East Side sewing shops had no fire escapes and no fresh water basins. Modern medical studies of factory workers from that era reveal the permanent damage caused by this work. Doctors examining preserved lung records found lungs turned black from coal smoke and scarred from breathing tiny cotton fibers. Floating cotton fibers caused constant irritation in the airways, making it almost impossible for tired workers to fight off serious lung infections. Under the heavy soot and locked doors, workers began organizing to demand better treatment. 5 cents an hour, and the door stayed locked, until desperate women decided that striking in the streets was preferable to suffering in silence. During November 1909, thousands of young immigrant seamstresses gathered inside the Great Hall of Cooper Union in Manhattan. A brave 19-year-old worker named Clara Lemlich, who had been beaten on picket lines, took the stage and gave an inspiring speech in Yiddish. Her powerful call to action started the famous uprising of the 20,000, the largest strike by female workers in United States history. For 14 bitter winter weeks, teenage girls marched through snow and ice, braving police arrests and physical attacks to demand a 52-hour workweek, fair pay, and unlocked doors. Even after these massive strikes, many greedy factory owners refused to install safety equipment or unlock exit doors during work hours. That reckless disregard for human life led directly to the terrible Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire on March 25, 1911, near Washington Square Park. When a small fire started in a scrap fabric bin under a cutting table, hundreds of seamstresses ran toward the 9th floor exits, only to find the heavy doors locked from the outside to prevent staff from taking breaks or stealing scraps. 146 garment workers, most of them young immigrant women between 14 and 23 years old, died in just 18 minutes from suffocating smoke or by jumping from high windows. Watching the terrible tragedy from the street below was a young social researcher named Frances Perkins. The unforgettable horror of that fire inspired her to dedicate her entire life to protecting working people, eventually becoming the first female Secretary of Labor under President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Perkins drew upon the lessons of those locked doors and dark sweatshops to help write the landmark Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. That historic legislation established the federal minimum wage, the standard 40-hour workweek, extra pay for overtime, and strict bans on child labor that protect workers today. Returning to Hester Street on that cold November evening, the pocket watch in Morris's vest finally reaches 10 o'clock at night. The iron key turns inside the lock, and the heavy workshop door swings open toward the dark staircase. Walking out into the midnight air of Manhattan, your ears ring from 16 hours of noisy machinery, your throat burns from breathing soot, and your apron carries a dark stain of dried blood. In your tired hand, you hold 45 cents in small coins, your entire pay for 16 hours of exhausting work, after Morris took out 15 cents for the broken needle and thread. 5 cents an hour, and the door stays locked, until tomorrow morning starts the whole cycle over again. Whenever you open your closet today and choose a clean, machine-sewn shirt, take a moment to remember the human struggle stitched into every seam. Modern workers enjoy well-lit rooms, safety doors that swing open with a gentle push, and standard working hours without fear of an iron deadbolt trapping them inside. All the basic comforts of modern work life exist because brave generations fought and suffered to change the law. If this look into immigrant history gave you a new appreciation for the clothes you wear, share this video with a friend and tell us in the comments, could you have survived a single shift inside this workshop? Be sure to subscribe to Rewind History for more untold stories of the past.